Alright, hello everyone. We are on the final countdown of the course, less than 12 days until you have to get in that final project in order to receive your nano degree. I hope everyone is progressing well through the capstone project. If you guys have any questions about getting that project completed, please feel free to reach out and I'll be sure to try and help you out. Today I'm going to be going a little off topic, but as the title of the video says, we are going to be going over the L in ETL. So we're going to be loading our data into a business intelligence tool called Tableau. Tableau is a great, easy to use data visualization tool which really brings your presentations to life and allows you to easily analyze information. So first I'm just going to go over, show some examples of what is possible with Tableau. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and look at this one, life expectancy. Alright, so here we have a scatter plot which is depicting fertility rate and life expectancy. So what I've done here is I've created an animated data visualization which will depict the relationship between fertility rate and life expectancy for various countries around the world. So when we highlight a data point, we can see we get our toolbox here which actually describes the country name. We have our year, region, and fertility rate, and so on. And we are breaking up the data by color for the individual region which it belongs to. So Tableau offers this really cool animation trick that you can use. So when I hit play over here, we will travel through time and watch this relationship between fertility rate and life expectancy. So as you can see, fertility rate is going down, so people are having less children, and life expectancy is rising. One interesting thing to note, let's watch that once again with a little bit slower. So we can see the sub-Saharan African countries are typically in the region with the highest fertility rate and the lowest life expectancy. We can see here Cambodia around the 1970s has a very sharp decline in life expectancy, which is associated with the rise of the Khmer Rouge. I believe it actually hit a life expectancy of around 19 years old, which is terrible. And we can see over here we have all of the European countries as well as the Asian countries mainly dominating the highest life expectancy within the 70 to 80 years old range. Alright, so I hope that this gets you guys excited to learn Tableau, which will help you in your analytical processes. I just felt like this would be a great tool for you guys to use in your upcoming projects in order to depict your findings in a very user-friendly way. Alright, so in order to get Tableau going, there are two versions of Tableau. There's a paid version, and then there is Tableau Public, which we will be using today. So you just go to public.tableau.com, you'll sign up, and then it will allow you to download the app via this click right here. All you have to do is simply enter your email address, and that is it. Also, it creates a profile for you, which you can then share your visualizations with the online community. So once you guys get that up and running, we will go ahead and come back over here. Once you open up Tableau, you will be met at this screen here. So we're going to go over each one of these. So we can connect to various file types within Tableau. So here we have Microsoft Excel documents, text files such as CSV, TSVs, JSON files, which might come very in handy with your project. We have Microsoft Access databases, PDFs, spatial files, and statistical files. So one of the biggest differences between Tableau Public and the paid version is the ability to connect to a server. Um, Unfortunately, I do not have the money to cough up for them, so I'm unable to utilize some of these features. Um, One of the great things that I'm very interested in right now is called PyTab, which allows you to integrate Python into Tableau. It's a very good resource for machine learning. You can visualize your machine learning models kind of in real time. You can watch loss functions, how they're declining, and so on. If you guys are interested in just getting some sample data, if you come over here to the bottom right, you can click on this sample data sets, open up your web browser, and Tableau provides a bunch of Excel documents. Um, so I recommend, picking one that you're interested in and diving in, getting a feel for Tableau, and creating some really cool visualizations. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and open up a Tableau document here. Or, sorry, not a Tableau document, but an Excel document. I'm going to be working with what's called the sample superstore, which is kind of like the hello world of Tableau dataset. So once you've clicked your Excel document, you will see now under connections we have the Excel file, sample superstore, and below that we have the sheets, which has all the sheets within the Excel document. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to be using one, the orders table. So what you do is you just drag that over here, and now you can see Tableau has loaded the data to the best of its ability into the columns and rows. So we can see that our table consists of things like order date, ship date, we got customer name, country, city, postcode, and so on. So if I were interested in, say, joining two tables, which might come in hand with your projects. So we can take a look here by clicking that button over here. We can take a look at the people's table, which is very boring, but I believe what it's supposed to represent is the individual salesman for that particular order. As you can see, the staff only consists of 4 people, and they each control their own region. So if we wanted to join that data, we would simply drag people over here next to orders, and now we can see that we have this Venn diagram pop up. And you can see, once you hover over it, that it's saying an inner join of orders and people. And it's joining on the region equals to region. And if we go all the way over here to the right, we can see now that in fact the associated salesman has now been added to each individual order that they're associated with. This does work in this case because, like I said, each salesman controls an independent region of the country. So when we do that inner join, it is joining correctly. Just note that you must be careful when doing these joins and make sure that you're not incorrectly joining your data. You want everything to line up. In this case, it's a pretty easy join, so you can just do a simple inner join. But as I said, we're not going to be using this in today's tutorial, so I'm just going to go ahead. You can just drag it to any gray area of the screen, and then that will get rid of it. Alright, so now we're ready to dive into creating some visualizations. Now I'm going to leave the data window, and I'm going to go over here, click on Sheet 1, and now we can go ahead and discuss the sheet interface here. So here we have our dimensions, and we have our measures. So measures are going to be numerical data. So we have our discount, profit, quantity, we got latitude and longitude, and so on. So they're all comprised of numerical data. Up here, this might sound familiar. Dimensions. So dimensions are the who, what, where, why, or not why, sorry, I got a little carried away there. So it's just going to be the descriptive data for the measures. So let's just go ahead and dive in and start making some interesting graphs here. So what if I were interested in the amount of sales? So I'm going to go ahead, drag sales over here. By default, Tableau is going to go ahead and automatically aggregate the data. As you can see, it says sum of sales. So we're automatically performing a sum function on this sales data. And now what do we want to find the sales of? Let's find the sales of each category. And it's as simple as that. We just go ahead and drag them into the appropriate columns and rows. And now we have ourselves a bar chart depicting the sum of sales for each individual category, which is furniture, office supplies, and technology. We can go ahead and extend that out a little bit further so that we can get a full view of our categories. Now let's say we weren't interested in a bar chart. By default, Tableau goes ahead and picks what it thinks would be the best visualization for the data that you provided. But if we come up here to the Show Me, we can go ahead and the ones that are actually not that are highlighted and not grayed out are the different charts that we can actually use. So let's say that we wanted to actually get a little bit more statistical value from our visualization. Perhaps we want to use a box plot here. So what I'm going to do, we see that unfortunately Tableau decided just to get rid of our categories, and so now we just have a box plot for all of the sum of sales. We can see now that it placed the category in detail, so we still see them within our box plot: office supplies, furniture, and technology. But what we actually wanted was 3 individual box plots for each of our categories. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to drop that back over there, get rid of detail, and let's see here. So we actually need to provide some more detail in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick, let's do region. Alright, so now we have the regions showing up in our detail, and we get this detailed box plot, which is showing the interquartile ranges for the sales across all of the data. So you can see here that furniture is doing the worst in the south. We have central doing it in the first quartile range. We have east, and then we have west. So once again, we have office supplies over here. The best performing area is the west side. We got east in the upper quartile range, central in the lower, and then down here the south. And this area here where the transition from dark gray to gray, that's going to be our median. Alright, so now let's say we wanted to maybe format this box plot a little bit differently to just be a little bit more presentable for our users. Perhaps we want to add some color to the various categories. So I'll come up here, I'll control click category, which is not just going to move it away, unless we'd end up losing our data. But you control click it, and then we just simply hover over here into the mark section, and we would just drop it on color. Now we can see that we get some color variations with our data points. We can also adjust the size if we want to maybe make our dots a little bit bigger. Alright, so now we've made a pretty nice looking box plot here, which is kind of describing our data. Let's go ahead and check out some more of these obvious features here in the Show Me. So we've done a box plot. Now let's look at a bubble chart. So here, once again, we have all of the various regions as well as categories. For this, let's get rid of the region. So I'm just simply going to drag it out of there. And now we can see that we have our bubble charts depicting all of the individual sum of sales for each category. They're not, unfortunately, they're not that different in sales. We can see that technology is 836,000. We got furniture at 742,000 and office supplies at 719. So we're not seeing too big of a difference, though technology is the biggest one here. Let's see if we can perhaps get a little bit more informative of a, let's look at profit. So look at profit. Alright, so we can see now that there is quite a difference between the three categories when it comes to the actual profit made. So profit would be defined as, just because it has a lot of sales doesn't necessarily mean that they're making a profit due to the cost of the actual inventory. So we can see that we're making the most money off of technology. Second place is office supplies. And then we have furniture, which we're not making too much profit off of. Let's go ahead. We're going to look at a tree map now. So it's very similar to the bubble chart, except now instead of bubbles, we have these boxes here. And the color encoding is actually helping us visualize the data by, we have this range right now. So we have this light blue, a little bit darker, and then the darkest being technology, indicating that it increases the most money, but we're also being able to visualize this by the size of each region. So let's, maybe we want to change the color of that. So let's click on color. We're going to say edit colors. And let's do like a orange to blue diverging. That sounds kind of nice. Let's apply that. So now you can see that we have furniture in the red, and now office supplies and technology are pretty much the same, but we have a nice visualization depicting which area of interest is not performing as well as we want it to. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump from scratch. So I recommend you guys, explore all of these different visualizations that we have available to us and really get a feel. So I'm going to show you one last one that's really cool, which I really like working with. So let's go ahead. We're going to throw state up in there, and now we have, click on that, and now we have a nice looking map here. So let's say that we are interested in this, let's do profit. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to stick profit in color. And let's mess around with that formatting a little bit. Let's edit the colors. And let's do red and blue diverging. Okay, so we can see very quickly here that the red states are not doing well in profit. We got Texas at negative 25,000, and then we also have California here. It looks like possibly the best performer at 76,000, followed by New York at 74. So you can see how quickly you can create some very cool visualizations with Tableau. Now let's say that we want this to be even more informative, and we actually want maybe our profits to display over the state so that you don't actually have to hover. We can do that very quickly by just control dragging. Remember, we have to always click control so that we don't just lose the other dimension that we were using to depict our data. So we control dragged over to label, and the label is now showing for each individual state. We can quickly see which are the states with the highest and lowest profits. Alright, so let's see, what else can we do here? So tooltip. So when it says tooltip right here, we can that's what it's showing right here. When I hover over and that little box shows up, that is what is called the tooltip. So just to kind of add a little bit more spice to that, we are going to add in another dimension here so that we can get a little more information. So we got profit. Let's go ahead and add sales into the detail. So now when you can see, when I hover over, we can see that the sales has been added to the tooltip. So here, if you click on tooltip, it now brings this up, and you can format this however you want. So we have state, and then it shows the state. So you can see that these angled brackets here are Tableau's way of referring to our aggregated data, in which case where we have our sum of profit over here, sum of sales. So if you ever want to refer to, say, something else, we can just use those angled brackets, and then you input the dimension that you are interested in. We can format this. Let's go ahead. We'll provide let's do a light brown. We're going to go ahead. We're going to increase the size of it. We'll make them bold. See what happens there. So we have increased the size of our tooltip text, and we have made them bold. So there's many different. You can format these as much as you'd like and really get some nice looking visualizations for your end user. Okay, so we've taken a little look at the map. Now let's go ahead to create a new worksheet. Say we're happy with this visualization, we want to move on to something else. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to click here, create a new sheet, which gives us a new blank template. So now we're going to be interested in looking at, let's get a more detailed breakdown of our categories and subcategories. Okay, so we're going to get category. I also want to depict the subcategory, and then we're going to go ahead, we're going to look at the, let's look at sales again. Okay, so now we get a nice breakdown here. We get a bar chart with each individual subcategory, as well as up here, the category listed at the top. So let's say that maybe we wanted to actually sort this data. We don't like how this looks. It's kind of just a mess right now. So we can just easily go like that. There's a sort button. If you click on the axis, or not even click, hover over the axis, and then you will see here that now our data is sorted from greatest to least with just one simple click in descending order. So we have our chairs as first here, we have storage is first there, and phones is first here. What would be a good way that we can actually maybe make this data stick out a little bit easier to allow us to distinguish the various categories and subcategories? Well, I would say maybe we can edit the color. So once again, we are going to break this down by category. Once again, control click, drag it over to color, and now we have color-coded categories. So for whatever reason, my Tableau always likes to put my legend up here in the top right. If you want to move it, you can just click it, drag it over, and then that will free up some real estate over here on the right side. So let's say that we want to add a little bit more detail to this bar chart. We can go ahead and maybe add a label to it. So we're doing our sum of sales, so you can just go ahead, click sales, put it over here as our label, and now you can see that we get our label with the exact measurement up here at the top. So it's very informative, very quick, very easy to use, and this will be very nice. If you guys do plan on maybe doing a little bit of analyzation, is that even a word, analyzation? Analyzing of your data once you finish up your project, this will be a sure way to kind of win over that reviewer's heart with your ETL process, or ELT. Okay, so let's see, what else can we do here? Maybe we want to even break this down a little bit more. Let's say that we want to now break it down for the furniture or different category and subcategory, but now we want to actually add the region as well. So now we can see we have each region indicated here at the bottom. We have Central East, Southwest, and now it's showing the subcategory chairs for every single one of our category subcategory combination. So as you can see, you can break this down as much as you'd like. Let's say that maybe we want to now break this down by, let's break it down by city as well. Let's just go even further. So what we're doing is we're increasing the granularity and we're reducing the amount of aggregation. As the granularity increases, the aggregations will continue to decline. So they're kind of opposites of each other. What I mean by the aggregations declining is you can see that the numbers are declining. Let's say we now take this away. Now you see that the numbers grow. We break this up even more, the numbers grow. So there's this opposites relationship between the two, granularity and aggregation. Okay, so let's say we're happy with that one. Let's go ahead and jump into something else here. Now let's say that we want to let's go ahead and do a comparison of our subcategories and quantity. Okay, so we can see now the quantity of our inventory for each of the subcategories. Let's all go ahead and just add a little more detail to that by adding category as well. Okay, so what did I just do there? You notice that when subcategory was listed first, that it changes the visualization. So Tableau works by performing operations in the order in which it is received. In the first case here, subcategory, so it's first breaking it down by subcategory, and then it's going to perform the category aggregation. But you can see what it's doing is we have every single subcategory. I'm sorry, here's the categories down here, and then it has the subcategory. But I think that for our user, we want to actually do the opposite. I believe that it's much more aesthetically pleasing. So the moral of this is make sure that you're thinking logically about the order in which you want Tableau to perform its aggregation of the data. So once again, just to kind of break it down again, so we're telling Tableau, first we want to break it down by category, then we want to break it down by subcategory, and now we want to say break it down by region. And now we get our data here. So let's go ahead, we'll sort that ascending so we can see now. Seems like West, you can quickly see that West is pretty much the top performer, except for here, machines is dominating in the East Coast here, which is pretty much the only one. So, alright, so I'm just going to go ahead. Okay, so I've been working a lot with our category and subcategories here. Let's try and take another, let's try and make one more completely different. So let's go ahead, let's say, let's do another map here where we have our city. I said our city. And we are going to be interested in looking where most of our customers are. So we're going to look at, let's do customer name as the detail. Now we can see on the map where each individual customer is located. But let's also put a little more detail into this. Let's say that we want to apply our our sales for each region. We're going to go ahead, we're going to add that to colors, and so we have this range up here that's going from light blue to the top one at 23,000. So it's not too informative on a per customer basis. They're not contributing too much money. So maybe what we want to do here is we actually don't want to aggregate. So if we go like that, you see that what it did was it changed from the sum of sales to just sales. Let me back this up a little bit just so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. Okay, so as I said, by default, okay, so yes, by default, Tableau is automatically performing aggregations of the data. It's automatically performing a sum of sales. So let's say that we want to compare sales to profit. Okay, so you would expect that to kind of be like a scatter plot. We're comparing two numerical values. But what it's doing is it's comparing two single numerical values because we're aggregating the data. We have the sum of sales and the sum of profit, resulting in just this one data point here. Now, in order to get an actual scatter plot of this, you have to click up here on the Analysis tab. You click Aggregate Measures, and now you can see that it's broken it down, and now we're getting a result for each and every single sales and profit feature of our data. So I would say here that you see a strong relationship between the amount of sales and the increase in profit, but at the same time we are getting a sharp negative decline, a negative correlation as well. So this is kind of a interesting event. So we can maybe break this down. Let's say that we want to only look at the sales versus profit of a specific category. How would we do that? Well, we're just going to go ahead, we're going to drag over category over here into filters, and we want to break it down by, say, let's just look at furniture. So now what it's done is it's taken out those other two categories, and we're only filtering based on the only category which we specified. So it's an interesting data because we have this two-way relationship. We have an increase in sales, also increases the profit, and then we also have an increase in sales, also decreases the profit. So I would say that that's indicative of the actual inventory in which we're working with. Some of the products might be too cost inefficient in order to make a profit off of. So that would be one thing that we possibly want to look into. As far as how we can optimize our business. So now that we've done that, let's say that we want to provide a little more detail here to our graph, and let's say that we want to provide a sort of like a KPI. So if you click over here, right click on the axis, we can add a reference line. So here I want to create basically a band that goes across the chart and shows where, perhaps say that we're interested only if the profit is greater than 100. So what we can do here is we can just say value sum profit. We want to do a constant, and we want the constant to be at 100. And let's see, we're just going to say that the label is going to be KPI, tooltip, automatic, so and so. We're just going to go ahead. We're going to do a dashed line here. It's not what I wanted. I wanted to fill it below it so that we're kind of focusing more on the area above the KPI. So let's see here. Fill above. There we go. That looks kind of nice. Okay, so we can see now that all these, this is the data that we're interested in. This is the data that has a higher profit. But also, let's say that we wanted to actually break that down a little bit more. We are interested in items that have a profit greater than 200, but also a sales that are greater than, let's say, 2,000. So once again, we're going to add a reference line. This one is doing it on the vertical orientation. So once again, we're going to go ahead and set a constant. We are interested in things greater than 2,000. Once again, our fill above, I believe that's the right color. And fill below, we're just going to do that gray again. Okay. So now you can see we have this sort of quadrant being created. So basically, these are the data points that we're interested in up here. So we wanted sales greater than 2,000 and a profit that was greater than, I believe I set it for 100. So there's much more we could have done with this. I'm going to try and wrap it up here, but just to kind of show you, let's go back here, close this one, and which one was it? Here we go. So we can also add parameters. So this is sort of the dashboard. This would have been like a final presentation. As you can see, we can alter that scatter plot by setting these parameters. You can drag it around. So say we were interested in a revenue greater than 8 million, and we want expenses. We want our expenses to be very low. And so what that does is it easily highlights that area and basically allows the user to kind of pinpoint through this very messy scatter plot, see which areas of interest they are interested in, and it just really increases the productivity of the end user in performing their very quick analysis. Because if you were to be turning this into an executive, you don't want them to have to sort, through this mess of a scatter plot. They're interested in, hey, I want to see, the top 10 growth leaders with this specific cutoff. Also, here this graph is showing it's basically it's analysis of startups and trying to find which ones it would be worthy to invest in. So this is depicting the ones that are growing the most, but then there are also other companies that are performing well, but they're not experiencing the growth that these ones are. So what I did was I added another dimension that highlighted these top 10 by growth ones to just easily identify them within our quadrants. Alright guys, I hope that I opened your eyes to the power of Tableau, maybe gave you some ideas so that you can use this in your project. Finally, one important thing here is when you save them, let's go ahead and we're going to jump back over to Tableau Public. I'm just going to go ahead and sign in. So as I said, it creates a profile for you where it saves all of your dashboards and stuff. So let's say that I'm interested in putting this in a presentation. Or perhaps you're trying to put it on your own blog or something like that. So what you can do is you come down here, click on Share, and what you can do is you can actually grab the code for this visualization. So if I were to put this in a website, it's a JavaScript, within JavaScript tags, you just copy that, and then you would paste it into your HTML. If you were just perhaps in your presentations, you could just use this one. It's just simply a link, which would then take the reader to your Tableau profile, and then they can go ahead and watch it. So once again, you just click down here, click share, and then you can embed the code or link into your presentation. Alright guys, that pretty much wraps it up for this week's video. Once again, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I do highly recommend just getting familiar with Tableau. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. There is some more in-depth topics, as I briefly showed. Maybe next week I will go into those. But I just wanted to kind of give you a sense of, creating some very basic graphs in Tableau. So once again, I am out for this week. Take care, everyone, and we'll see each other soon.